Philippe Mvuyekure has spent the last 5 years living in a refugee camp in Tanzania. Now he's on his way home. He's among thousands of refugees convinced that Burundi's bitter 10-year civil war may be coming to an end.
I haven't heard anything from my mother and my family since I fled 5 years ago. I miss them and I want to see them.
Burundi is struggling to emerge from a civil war between Hutu rebels and the Tutsi-dominated army. Over 1 million people were uprooted by the conflict and more than 300,000 killed. Fears of genocide, a repeat of what happened in neighboring Rwanda, have never been far from the surface. Now, a peace accord which features a temporary power-sharing government has put an end to most of the fighting. But just as Philippe and others are making their way home, there are new questions about how best to diffuse future conflicts and the role that economic development plays in building lasting peace. Bujumbura, Burundi's capital, looks like a city under siege. Perhaps that's because here in the country's political center, the war hasn't really ended yet. In the hills surrounding Bujumbura, the only rebel group to refuse to sign the peace accord continues to launch attacks. While on the streets, people are bracing themselves for the country's first multi-party elections since the war began.
Burundians are afraid of elections. Early in 1961, the first leader of Burundi has been assassinated just after the elections. 1965, the first prime minister, who was Hutu, also assassinated just after the elections. Then, in 1993, the first elected president, Melchior Ndadaye, has been also assassinated after the elections. So you see, there is a reason for Burundians to be afraid of elections.
These fears are intensified by the 55,000 former rebel fighters who have yet to give up their weapons.
Our fighters have no trouble to go back home to start a new life, but they need some financial support so that they can start again. If that is not the case, someone who has been holding a weapon for years will not hesitate to get another weapon and use it to take what he wants.
Tipping the scale toward peace requires rebuilding the country's economy quickly. Not only to give rebel soldiers a reason to turn in their weapons, but to rebuild hospitals and schools and to give all Burundians a chance to start again. All of this requires money that the government doesn't have. Since the war began, export revenues from coffee, for example, have fallen by half.
Before the war, Burundi managed to feed its population. The government could pay its civil servants without too many problems. Nowadays, we must borrow from the central bank in order to pay their salaries.
And although international donors have pledged $1 billion for Burundi's reconstruction, less than half has been dispersed.
People promised to give money, but it never came because they say the country is not secure. But without financial means, many of the programs we hope will aid peace cannot be achieved.
This is the paradox. War-ravaged economies like Burundi's need outside assistance to offer people an alternative to conflict, while international donors want peace before they commit funds. Yet for the 150,000 refugees expected to be repatriated at transit centers like this, the time seems right to be coming home. Philippe fled after his father was killed and rumors of more